Hi. You guys may know me as Lizzie Elizabeth, but my real name is Constance. And this video I have for you is very different, very personal, and it's been on my heart for a few years now. I've spent the last maybe 3 or 4 months working on it, and I've gone through many different ways of how I can make it. It's unscripted, as you could tell, and it's very important to me. So I hope that you stick around and listen to what I have to say. I have some illustrations for this video. As I tell you guys my story, they're there to kind of illustrate how I was feeling in that moment and, certain aspects of it, if that makes sense. If I sound a little nervous or get emotional, at least you know I'm not lying. So, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease in 2018. And this started on my 13th birthday. When I had just turned 13, my stomach had started hurting. And at first I thought it was just some kind of stomach bug. I had a really strong immune system, so I thought it hurts, but maybe it'll just go away after a few days. Maybe I ate something bad or I caught a bug. So I just kind of kept it to myself and, rested. But after a couple of weeks, it didn't stop and get worse. I remember going to my mom and grandmother, and I was just in there crying on my mom's bed thinking, this is getting to be too much. I don't understand what's going on. I was always a healthy kid, so I'd never really experienced such stomach pain. So they took me to the emergency room, and this is when they did a few tests on me and a CAT scan, which is, an x-ray, and the doctor comes back and says that I have colitis. But the way they explained it to me was that it was meant to be temporary. It wasn't permanent or anything. It was only meant to last a few months. And the guy explaining this to me, I remember he looked at me and was like, your immune system was too strong for you, so it got confused and started attacking you. But, in a very condescending voice. So they were like, we're going to send you home with some antibiotics, and in a few months you should be fine. That's pretty much what they told us. So, I was like, okay, cool. I'll go home. I'll take these antibiotics. My mom did some research on colitis and found these pills that were meant to be helpful for it. It was all natural, and it had some vitamins in it. It had some other stuff in it. So she got it for me, and I started taking those. Now, it did not get better. It got worse. My body started rejecting food, and everything that I tried to eat, and I tried almost everything, my body kept rejecting it, and it made me lose a lot of weight fairly quickly. And because of this, and my body not wanting to hold any nutrients I was getting because, it just kept rejecting it, my body got so weak that it started swelling. And I would wake up with these really swollen hands and arms, and my feet had gotten so swollen that all the detail of it was just gone, and it hurt to move around with it. I remember I would just lay down on the couch in the living room and not move. I didn't want to go upstairs to my room because I didn't want to be alone. I was scared that if I went upstairs and fell asleep, I wouldn't wake up. I wanted to be around my family. So, my mom and my stepdad, they would stay with me in the living room. most days, and they would watch TV with me, and they would, try to get me to eat, and they had all kinds of stuff to try and help me, thinking that something's got to work. If they try enough things, one thing has to stick, right? But I could feel myself feel stuck. I felt like nothing was working. I felt like everything we tried, my body just rejected it outright completely. And because of all of this going on, my mind started to weaken. I didn't know how to describe the pain to my family. All I remember being able to tell them was, I just can't do it. And they didn't know what that meant. They didn't know what I was going through, so they thought, oh no, she's suicidal. She's giving up. And at times it did feel like I was giving up. I felt like I had these ball and chains around me, and they were like hundreds of pounds keeping me from being able to move. Anytime I got up or walked around or simply reached for my drink, it felt like my limbs would just fall apart. I was growing so tired, and I felt like I was being kept in this dark place. I felt like I was being led right to death. I didn't know what to do. So my mom finally decided that this was the time we should bring in God. And, we had always been Christians my whole life. I grew up in church. They, taught me about God and stuff. But for some reason, we didn't bring him into the situation until it had gotten so bad. And this was around the time that these two police officers showed up. Some of the kindest police officers I've ever met. That came in and they were like, someone called in for a wellness check. We're just here to see if she's doing okay, if she has everything she needs. And they checked around. I had a tray that my mom would always make me every day, where it would have my breakfast or lunch or dinner, my drink, all the medicine I was taking at that time, everything I could need right there, so that I didn't have to get up and get it, because I couldn't. And they saw that, and they saw how my mom was so worried for me. She almost looked sick herself. And they were like, I don't see anything wrong here. You're clearly not neglecting her. She has everything she needs. But one of them suggested to take me to one of the hospitals up in Atlanta. And he's like, they will take care of her. And he's like, you can even say that I recommended you, and they'll get you situated almost immediately. So my mom was like, okay, I'll think about it. Because, at the time I didn't have any insurance. Our family was never really the type to need doctors or anything like that. We kind of always took things naturally. It was just kind of how my family was. So my mom thought about it, and a few days later, my dad had came over, and he was trying to help out and spend time with me, and that is when I fainted again, because I had been fainting for a few months now, and this is what broke the last straw my mom had with this. She's like, okay, let's take her to the hospital. I don't want to see her faint anymore. I don't want to see her grow any weaker. So they took me to the hospital, and they admitted me in almost immediately. They put a feeding tube in and all of that, and they told us, they're like, if she had come a day later, she would have died. And so they did an endoscopy on me, and the doctor came back and said that I actually had Crohn's disease. And he had even looked at the CAT scan that the emergency room did, and he's like, we knew as soon as we hit her colon that it was Crohn's disease. There was no reason for them to diagnose her with colitis, because even looking back at those original test results, it was so obvious. So they started me on treatment. They got me, I think I had like 3 blood transfusions, loads of iron infusions, and they were telling me that I was supposed to be there for a few months, that my recovery was going to take a while, and that, because of how much nutrients and vitamins and all that I had lost, it was going to be hard for me. But I had a lot of determination. We were moving in the process of all of this to add the cherry on top. And I just wanted to go home. I was tired of the hospital. I was tired of being sick. I wanted to go home. So when they had told me that it was going to take a few months, I was like, no. And I ended up recovering within like 2 weeks. And my doctors and nurses were like, this is amazing. She was supposed to take way longer than this. I don't know where she keeps getting the strength from, but they went ahead and sent me home. And I was out of remission within like a month after that. Or in remission a month after that. But because of all the vitamins I'd lost, I'd also lost my hair. So one day my mom decided to help me shave it all off. But my hair had always been, one of the things that I loved about myself. I thought it was what made me pretty. I thought by shaving it, I had lost all sense of beauty. So my self-esteem just went downhill. And while growing it back, I was put back into public school because I wasn't doing too well in homeschool. I didn't feel like I was learning properly. So I was put into this public school in a small town, which we had moved to. And if you know anything about small towns, they like their cliques. Everybody's grown up with each other. They already know all the names of the students and all. So any new student that would come in, they would bully the crap out of. And I remember because all I wanted was to fit in. I wanted to make some friends. I just wanted to be seen. I ended up getting into a lot of drama. People would say things like I had cancer because my hair was growing out from shaving it off. And all the drama that I'd gotten in, people would call me all kinds of names, almost every name under the sun that you can think of. It really tore me down. And not only was I dealing with all that bullying, I was still trying to figure out how to deal with having Crohn's disease so young and not knowing fully what that meant. I didn't fully understand what IBS was, or the fact that food and stress and anxiety and all was a part of it. And I had also been diagnosed with social anxiety, so I was going to therapy. It was a mess. And in the middle of all of that, COVID happened. In the middle of my 8th grade year. So I turned to food. Any emotion I felt, whether it was happy or sad or bored or whatever, I ate because I was stuck inside. My doctor didn't know if, Crohn's patients could handle COVID. He was afraid that it would harm me, so he was like, just keep her inside, don't let her out. I was stuck inside for maybe 3 months straight. I didn't leave the house. So I gained a lot of weight. Almost, I think it was 220 pounds. And this did not help my self-esteem. And I started being fed lies by the enemy. I remember nights I would sit there and think, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to be loved. I went through so much self-hatred. And I thought, Crohn's disease is here. I have Crohn's disease because it's my fault. I don't know how to take care of myself. I started blaming everything that could go wrong on myself. And 2 years of this, and I ended up with another flare-up And that flare-up caused me to have a hole in my colon, and they told me I would need surgery for it. But during that hospital visit, and I was only there for like a week, my pastor came and he prayed over me. And this is when I was delivered from my social anxiety. And what I mean by that is, like, one moment I felt so nervous talking to people, it would make me cry. To the next moment, I felt like an extrovert. I loved talking to the nurses. I would talk their ear off. I would get them to stay with me for like 30 minutes straight, talking to them about my dog and, my art, because I loved drawing. And I would talk to the doctors, and when I had finally gotten home, I had no issues ordering my own food and stuff. Like, the anxiety just left. And it was so freeing. And this is also when I had finally turned back to God, and he led me to learn how to love myself. He taught me that not only was I easy to love, but that I deserved to be loved. And that no one in my family hated me or blamed me. And that was a lie. So I started taking better care of myself. I went to therapy and eventually got to the point where I didn't need a therapist. And this is finally when I started feeling better. I went like 2 years without having a flare-up or feeling sick or having my stomach hurt me. I was doing good. And then when I turned 18, my insurance stopped supporting me. It was supposed to last until I was 21, but I guess the policies changed and they just dropped me. And they were supposed to help me find a new insurance that would take me so that I could continue my treatment. But this whole time I had been praying, God, I don't want to be on this treatment anymore. I don't want to have to live my whole life with Crohn's disease. And one thing that I'd always been promised by God was that I would be healed. So I was like, I'm going to take this as my sign not to do treatment anymore. Of course, we were still dealing with the insurance because I still had other things that needed to be paid for and that we could not afford. Hospital bills and all that, it's expensive. I still needed insurance. But we got denied like 5 to 6 times, and it was always something ridiculous, and the people kept hiding from us and all that. And within the course of 6 to 7 months of me not having my treatment, I ended up starting to feel sick again. And this pain I had, it was a little different. It was still Crohn's, I could tell. But I didn't get so sick that I was losing, I'd lost all my hair again. I wasn't rapidly losing weight. My body wasn't swelling the way it was before. And I didn't end up needing to go to the hospital. But during all of this, while we're dealing with insurance and all, my church decided to hold a Festival of Miracles. There's this evangelist, and he was known for his healing events. Basically, he would go to churches and hold these revivals, and so many people would be healed of all different kinds of things. The testimonies were really amazing. And my pastor was like, you should go. You need to go to this. So I went because, if there was a chance for me to be healed of something that had been dragging me down all of my teenage years, I was going to do it. So the first night, it was kind of just an introduction. There were some really great testimonies that night. It was really good. But nothing happened. So that second night, I was already kind of fed up because at that point, my feet had started swelling, and I just felt so tired. So I went, and I prayed, and I asked God, I'm like, I don't want to leave this church without my healing. I don't want to leave knowing that I'm going to go home and have another sleepless night, that I'm going to wake up with pain so bad it feels like I'm going into labor. It was like, God, you've done it for so many other people. do it for me. And a lot of you guys are probably like, oh no, religious psychosis and all that. Hear me out. Stay with me, okay? Just stay with me. Alright? Because it gets to the point where it's easier to believe me, okay? Just stick with me. Here, I'm almost there. At this point, I started to feel like this warm feeling in me. I couldn't really describe it to you guys other than I felt like I was on fire. Not in a bad way, in a comforting kind of way. And then suddenly, my stomach stopped hurting. And I got this random burst of energy. And they did like these testimony lines, because if you're healed of something, you are meant to go tell people. If God heals you of something, he does not want you to keep that to yourself. So I went and told people, and I was excited, and I was feeling so good. And the next day I woke up without any pain. The swelling was going down. I felt great. And this was perfect timing too, because I had graduation just in a few days. So I was like, okay, finally, God has healed me like he's promised. And then the pain started coming back after a few days. And I was confused. I was like, I thought you healed me. You confirmed this in me. I felt nothing but peace about this whole situation. And I'd finally felt normal. The first time in 7 years, and I felt normal. What's going on? And the pain continued. It was different though. This was more of it started on my right side, and all the symptoms I was having, my mom was like, oh, you're having gallstones. Because she had them for a few years, and she's like, this is exactly what I dealt with, and it was just gallstones. So, she got me all the things that she had to deal with it, and it helped, but it didn't make it better. The pain got so bad, and I started throwing up again, and losing a lot of weight. So, one night, I think I got a fever, and I finally was like, Mom, take me to the hospital. We didn't have insurance, but for some reason, I was like, we'll deal with it. You know, we'll pay the bill somehow. Right now, though, I just want to make sure that there's nothing I'm missing or, whichever. So I get to the hospital, and they do a couple of tests, a few different scans, because I told them, I'm pretty sure it's my gallbladder. But, of course, I had to tell them that I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So they tested to see if my gallbladder was okay. And what they had told me was that there was a part of my colon that was irritated, and it was irritating both my appendix and my gallbladder. So I was dealing with 3 irritations all at once. And they're like, in order to properly see what's going on, we need to do a colonoscopy. But because I didn't have insurance, they had to admit me in. This took a few days, and finally we were able to do the colonoscopy. And this was just a few months ago, by the way. And I will never forget the surgeon's face after the colonoscopy. He comes out with this, really bright smile. Normally people would be a little disturbed seeing their surgeon come out with this big smile. But he comes out, and he's like, if I had just looked at, the 90% of your colon that we had looked at, I would have agreed with you in saying that you were healed of Crohn's disease. Because your colon, the main part of my colon looked great. He was like, it looked perfectly healthy. It was just right at the end when we had gotten to the little part at the right side of your colon. He's like, that's irritated, but I can't really call it Crohn's disease. He refused to call it Crohn's disease. And it was like he had this filter over his mouth because he was trying to put a word to it, but he couldn't. And he just seemed so excited for some reason. So, he gave us the images of it. I am not showing y'all those images because YouTube would take me down, I promise. But here's the thing. here's the point of what I call my proof of my healing. My doctor, I had a Crohn's specialist doctor. He specialized in Crohn's disease. When I was first diagnosed, they pointed out that it was on the left side of my colon. It was located on the descending colon. It was there. And if you know anything about Crohn's disease, it does not move. It can expand, but it does not move sides. So the part where my Crohn's disease was actually located was perfectly healthy. It looked great. But the right side, where the irritation was, that was not where the Crohn's disease was, and they didn't even put on the what is it called? The discharge sheets that I had Crohn's disease, they actually called it colitis. Again, how fun is that? But now they had sent me home with this colitis treatment, these pills and some steroids and all that, and I'm off of those now, and I'm doing great. And all of this to say of I am Crohn's free. The doctors could not deny that. And you can't deny actual physical proof because I have a picture of it. Now, I mean, it ain't a pretty picture because you're looking inside your colon really ain't that pretty. But I have my proof. And let me tell you, knowing what it's like to feel normal after 7 years of nothing but having to watch what I eat and having to have stomach aches over everything, having to watch my stress levels, not being able to be like a normal teenager, it feels great. I finally know what normal is. I finally know what it's like to be a normal female. I don't have all the issues that I had before. My life has changed a lot. And even though my body is still recovering from, the gallbladder stuff, all of that pain has subsided. I'm not dealing with all that now. And my body isn't rejecting anything. It's taking in everything pretty well. I'm finally getting strength that I was never able to get with Crohn's disease. And all of these little details I've noticed in my life, now that I've been healed of it, it's a different change, and I'm still getting used to it. But all of this to say, if you have IBS, whether it be colitis or Crohn's disease or whatever else, not only are you not alone, but you have a God out there, the God that loves you. And you may be thinking, if he loves me, why would he let me go through this? Here's the thing that I've learned over the past few years. It was not in God's plan for me to get Crohn's disease. But life throws curveballs at you all the time. And yeah, God could have healed me a lot sooner. He could have. But I've realized that I'm grateful that he didn't heal me sooner. Because the things that I've learned over the past few years about my health and what it takes to take care of myself and all of that, I never would have learned all of that if I didn't have it. I never would have learned how to truly love myself if it wasn't for Crohn's disease. So while it wasn't in God's plan for me to have it, I'm grateful that he managed to use it for my benefit. I don't regret any of it. It's hard to explain. And I know some of you out there, you're hurt. You're like, what did I do to deserve all of this pain? You don't deserve it. And you don't have to live with it. If there's anything I've learned about IBS is that it's not permanent. The doctors tell you that because it's their job. They want money. No offense to those doctors. I am incredibly grateful for them and the treatments that I was able to get. But now that my body's adjusted to it, it's reacting the way it should be. Here's the thing. You're not meant to live on medication your whole life. God created our bodies to have everything that it needs to fight everything off. So yes, while we do need doctors, you also need God. And I promise you, He would not let you down if you gave Him the chance. He loves you so much that He values you more than anything. You are worth so much more than whatever diagnosis a doctor could give you. You are worth so much more than whatever names people call you. Whatever trauma you've been through, that is not who you are. You have so much more value in you than just some diagnosis, than medications, than what you've been through. But all of that has built your character. And, I know things like this are scary. Going through pain, it's not fun. Hospital visits, infusions every few months. It sucks. It's tiring. Mentally and physically, and having chronic fatigue and all of that. It wears you down. But you don't have to live with it. You don't have to let it define who you are. Because when you do that, you're taking away all of the worth that God has given you. You're taking away all of the beauty that He's put in you. And I just want you guys to know that you are worth so much. And you are lovable. You are worth the fight. You are worth the hard times and the good times. Loving you is worth it for anyone in your life. And if they don't think so, then they are not meant to be in your life. So, learn how to find that value in yourself. Learn how to take care of yourself. Learn that you matter so much that Jesus died for you. And you may not even want to hear all of this. And if you're still listening, I'm incredibly grateful. But I hope that you at least somewhat hear me out. You don't even have to believe this entire story. It doesn't really matter to me. What matters is I've said it, and after so many years, I finally get to tell people that I no longer have to deal with it. So yeah. Anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough. But, yeah, I just hope you realize that all of you are so beautiful. And even if you don't think so, I do. I don't have to know you. I don't have to know what you look like, what you've been through. I don't have to even talk to you. You could be the world's biggest jerk and I would still find you beautiful and worth loving, because everyone is. So, yeah. This video is a little different, but it was important to me to make. And, I hope to see you guys later. Bye-bye.